Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
Please be seated. I looked up in the Torah, moving about the people as they reach out to touch. And then I saw Boaz and Yachin. You probably don't even know who I'm talking about. Boaz and Yachin. There were the two columns in front of the temple. They were called Boaz and Yachin. And I saw those two. One of them was him, Boaz, and the other guy was Yachin over there by the door entrance. The beautiful picture. I often say this, and I cannot stop repeating it, that I'm humbled to stand before you to share with y'all the Word of God. I don't take it lightly because I have very, very deep fear in the Lord. Some people will say that they're friends with God, that God is their buddy. But I don't. I could never see myself as God is my buddy or Bubba. Call God Bubba, whatever that is. I don't know. God is fire. He is lightning, 1 billion trillion times the size and the impact of a lightning. We've been a long time ago to the Sequoia National Forest. Some of those trees are like 40, 45 stories up high. And if you've been in construction, that the question would be, how many pumps do you need to bring water from the base to the very, very top? How many pumps do you need? Powerful pumps to push that. And you know, a gallon, I think I could be wrong, but I think it's 8 pounds a gallon. And you have 1 billion gallons going up to the top of the tree day after day after day. You don't need those pumps. God has managed to have an irrigation system that goes all the way to the top. Naso is, I love all of God's portions because this is, to me, it's like I'm in the front, at the front of the war pact. Missiles and bullets are going around me. Of course, that's a story I'm telling, it's a metaphor. But I'm trying to make an impact here. And amidst all of the chaos and all the wounded and all the dead people around me, we have maybe a few minutes of rest between the barrage of rockets. And then what I do is I pull the last letter of my loved one, whether it was my fiance or my wife, and it consoles me as I read her words. The very same words I've read maybe 1,000 times, but they never get old. I go over and over and over, and it soothes my soul to hear from my beloved. And I'm happy to be alive, if not for no other reason, just to see her one more time. Now, like I said, it's a metaphor. It's, to me, this is what the Torah is all about. My beloved, I'm in the middle of war in this life. I'm warring with rockets around me, a lot of pain, pretty much from head to toe. And getting older is no fun. But then it consoles me when I open the letter of my beloved, the Torah, and I get to read it. It is as if it's the first time I open the Torah. Each time I see it in a different view, different impact in my life. How can you not teach nothing but the Torah? Nothing. Anyway, I speak for myself. I cannot speak for all of you. And among the many portions that I love, each and every one of them, this has to be at the top 10 for me, because it has a certain amount of, one is of initiating, of volunteering, while the other one is one of accusing. And I can see the balance here. Here is a married woman who is innocent, but her husband complains to the priest that his wife is cheating on him. And you can only imagine, if you've had this kind of a impact in your life, whether it's people at work, kids in school, when they go to the teacher or the boss and they lie about you because they're trying to demeanor you and elevate themselves, what do? You tell the truth and people say, no, you're lying. You're right. The accusation is right for you, even though you know you haven't done it. Here's this married woman who has nothing to do with the blame, the accusation of her husband, but she has to go to the priest testing. So this portion is even among the many words that the Torah prescribes, one of them is take a census. Well, maybe not in English, but the very word to take census is one of elevation right there. You are being exalted and you're part of that nation. You're part of that census. The Naso is about lifting up, elevating, intense emotion. There's an intense emotion. Now I joke with Idalia and the ladies that come to help, because every day I get invitation from Donald Trump, which I really respect him to the bottom of my heart. To me, he is Superman, not the one that you see on TV. He is, to me, I know some of you don't agree, but that's okay. It's my point of view, is that he is a Superman because his very own people rise up against him. Then you have the opposition, and then you have the rest of the world rising up against him. And he is adamant to fight the fight, not for himself. He doesn't need this work. Sorry, I'm just kind of plugging into Donald Trump coming up. He doesn't need a paycheck. In fact, all the money he made for the first 4 years, he gave it back. And I'm sure he'll do the same thing. He doesn't need money. He fights for us. Sorry, God. I hope that you elect him according to your will. So this is the longest portion of Numbers 4:21 till 7:89. It's the longest portion, and it has to do with quite a few addresses that we need to address today. And there's more that I'm not going to get to. But starting with Numbers 6:24 to 26, I'm trying to make a point for all parents. While there may not be a parent guide, I know I didn't have one. Did you have, Shaul? Did you have a manual that you how to raise your children? No. It's a hit and miss. You do the best you can, and you hope and you pray that God will give me now grandkids, because while I didn't do the right thing with my kids, maybe I'll do better with my grandkids. which again, we're gonna fail every time because we're humans. But while we do not have a parent guide for raising one's children, it appears we can glean some instructions from this portion, and I call this the Birkat HaKohanim, the priestly prayer, which to me, every time I hear it at the Wailing Wall, it gives me chills. Because I can only imagine, hope you can imagine like me, I can only imagine what did it look like in the days of Solomon's temple, when the nation came 3 times a year, like a flood, like a cloud, to give their tithe and their offerings. It's called aliyah, elevation. But God has really been merciful to me in that I may be the only person that finds a manual for parenting one's children. And to date, I do not know that anybody else has taught that. And if they do, it's because they learned from me 65 years ago. But it makes an impact in my life. And I hope that you take it to heart. And I will go ahead and refer to them by 3 numbers. Number 1, the Lord bless you and guard you. This is the prayer that Rabbi Levy dismisses our service with those words, the blessing of the Kohanim. Number 2, may God shine his face upon you and teach you or instruct you. And number 3, may God lift up his face towards you and place wholeness and shalom upon you. Now, I will dissect this. Hopefully it will make sense to you. What I believe, this prayer that God has put upon Moshe for the Kohanim is really what he gave to the parents of how to raise their children. I believe this prayer is also the manual of guiding our children. Naso addresses the priestly duties, the purity of the camp, the unfaithful wife, the law of the Nazarite, Notzri, and the priestly blessings, just to mention a few in this chapter. It's full. So I'm going to dissect this and make it clear, I hope, to y'all. We're going to start with number 1. The Lord bless you. So for the first few years of my teachings, I was never settled to the notion of God bless you. God bless you. What does that mean? I need more. What does that mean, God bless you? It's the same as me telling you, here's a lotto ticket, but I don't give you no information. You can look at it all you want, but there's no information. It doesn't give you the numbers. It doesn't give you the address for the individual. So God has shown it to me in a very, very clear understanding of what does that mean. God bless you. So the word is barach. 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 What is the definition of blessed to y'all? If somebody comes and says, okay, Bob, okay, Charlie, give me a definition. What does that mean, God bless you? Does anybody? Huh? Make you happy. That, yeah, we all want to be blessed, but I need more. What does that mean? God bless you. Could be meaning, no, yeah. But I believe God wants us to understand, what does that mean? We hear people going around throwing a word of God bless you, God bless you. They say with the no address as a cheap candy. Here's a candy. But how's that going to affect me? I need to know, what is it God? Okay, you want God to bless me, but is God going to give me more health, more money, more? What does that mean? I don't know if this ever crossed your mind, but I'm a very inquisitive person. I need more.
I think it goes back to the blessings in Deuteronomy. You got the blessings in the curse. So the blessings is all of your life, that the Lord will bless you in every area of your life.
Excellent. I like it. Here's how I break it down. Back from Deuteronomy 7:13. And I found out that when God says to bless you, Barak, it has to do with multiplication. When it says, I will bless the fruit of your womb, now I have some understanding. Now when you say to me, God bless you, I think part of that blessing, that it speaks of the increase of my wife's womb. The fruit of your ground. Oh, now as a farmer, that makes a lot of sense. I worked very hard. I broke the soil. I planted the seed. I watered it. And I'm waiting for an increase. That's part of the blessing. And you will find it so clearly once you know the understanding that I give you from the Hebrew language. So let's go ahead and break it down. For those of you who take notes, looks like this. Barak. Barak has to do with the knees, with breaking of the knee. I do not know if this is in France or in Belgium, but I do know in England, if you are going to have an invitation from the Queen, now we have a king there, but at the time it was a queen, you cannot just get on your plane and just go to the Queen. You have to go through a process. They're going to guide you. They're going to show you how to curtsy. Well, to curtsy, you have to break the knee. You have to bend the knee. You have to diminish yourself, where the Queen looks exalted and you look small. So that's what we do. When we stand before God, we are diminishing ourselves and we are increasing in God. So we learn this from breaking the numeric value of those letters. You'll find out that Bet is 2. Resh is 20. Chaf Sofit is 200. Did you notice? It's all multiplications of 10. 2 times 10, 20. 20 times 10, 200. You don't need any more, because the Torah teaches us that 3 is all you need, because after 3 comes infinite. You don't need any more than that. Say what?
The resh is the 200 and the hops of feet. There's the reverse.
I'm not there yet, but
Bet is 2.
2.
Resh is 200. You have 20. And the hops of feet is 20. Did you understand?
That works for me. But the numeric value is, it has to do with multiplications. So there's another verse that tells us that God wants to give us an increase, and it's called fold in the King James. Tenfold, 100-fold, right? So this is multiplications. So Barak has to do with multiplications of 10, 10 being the number of righteousness. In Judaism, this has become the Friday evening where the father gathers his children around him at the lighting of the candles. The candles are to usher holiness, to usher brightness. And for 51 years, my wife and I, we have been lighting the candles on Friday night to usher Shabbat in, a day of light, a day of understanding what Shabbat is all about. But the father gathers his children around him for the purpose of blessing them. And from this model should be a parent's prayer. And I hope that if you do have children at home, that you can actually practice that. You will find it's an amazing blessing. You will feel like you, for Shavuot, that's how you're going to feel every Friday when you gather your children around you and you're able to bestow upon them the multiplications of return. Not only tenfold, but 100-fold. Increase of strength, of wisdom, of knowledge, of understanding, increase of faith. You never have enough faith, folks. We should never find the place in our life where we say, well, I have enough faith. An increase of hope, of honoring one's parents and those who are above us, the president, the governor, the mayor, the school principal. All these, you may not even agree with them, but you need to lift them up according to Scripture to ask God to bring a blessing so that your principal will be a better person, so that the boss of your job is more understanding. To give us an increase of income, of shalom within the family, to bring shalom to our nation. You know, America has the only currency that is stamped on the dollar bill, in God we trust. You know, the original statement was, they came up about from Chaim Solomon, George Washington's advisor from England that came here. And he is the one who came up with a seal for the dollar bill. And you know what he wrote? He says, in one God we trust. But the Quakers and the other Europeans who came, they did not agree with the one. So Washington was forced to take the one out, and he put, in God we trust. But in Judaism, you know, the Bible teaches that Shema Israel, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad, one. But all other religions wanted to have their own gods, In India, their god is a cow. In China, maybe it's the what? The dragon. In Islam, it's the crescent moon. Only Judaism is the only one that serves an invisible God, the God you cannot touch, you cannot see, you cannot hear. None of our senses can be accessible to God because he's so far removed from us. You know why? Because he is holy and we're not. We're sinners. So this big gap. As we ask God to be good parent to us, we learn ourselves to be a good parent to our children. That includes using the rod on them when necessary. When a child is misbehaved, and I'm not telling you and I'm not teaching you how to do yours, this is, you're the parent, you do whatever you want to. But the one that I worked for with my kids, it's from the Bible. First, I tell them not to do it. Then, when they do it again, I tell them again, don't do it, because on the second one, there will be consequences. And if they want to break the rule, that's it. No more talking. No more threats. You just take them to the bathroom, use a belt, and you give them, and you explain to them why they have to experience pain because they did not listen. Now, I do not advocate that we should ever use our hands for punishing. Our hands should be always to embrace, to comfort, and to love our children. This is why I prefer maybe a paddle, maybe even a belt, and always below the waistline. Never to hurt any organs or the kidneys. Always make them, my kids knew that the bathroom was the only place in the house that was not a good place to be. Because when you went to that bathroom and you had to lean over the sink, and then daddy would come, never more than 3. It wasn't so much about the pain as much as the embarrassment that my father, instead of giving me a hug and loving me, he's giving me something that is kind of painful. So I don't think you really need to go more than 3, because if they didn't learn in the 3, they wouldn't learn in the 4 or the 50. It's just a single symbol that my father is not pleased with me. Obviously, God did not use a paddle or a belt. When God punishes, it's always death. Very painful to take, like in this case where they took the babies from the hands of the mother and put them in the microwave to cook while they were alive. That's very painful, both physically, emotionally. While we understand increase from our daily life, we should know that the first increase actually begins inside the womb. Inside the womb. From a drop of water, we increase in the soil of the womb, where the baby increases to form and shape the human being. And this is where you learn from the very beginning, is that increase from a drop of water. Here we have a human being. Small, yes, but again, what do we find? As the baby comes out of the world, he or she continues in the increase, doubling its self until it comes to a full maturity, 15, 16. I stopped at my growth at 16. I think Logan continues to grow at 45, close to it. So I'm going to teach you another word that is very valuable. The word womb in Hebrew is rechem. And think how beautiful this language portrays to be. You will never find this in any language, French, German, English, no. You say womb, what does womb come? But in Hebrew, you find one of the many interpretations of that word is mercy. Rechem from rachamim, mercy. That's my prayer now for the last 2 years in my life. I've always prayed for other things, but now I just beg God for forgiveness and mercy and compassion. Rechem. Compassion. Rechem also means nurture. Help to make it grow, make it to increase. Just as our prayer is for God's will to be on earth, even as it is in heaven, you never stop to think, why is that prayer makes so much sense? Because you have an increase on the earth. Your minimum. The earth is very small to compare to God's eternal span, no end of span. So what is the prayer we do to our God? May your kingdom on earth be as it is in heaven. That's an increase. Multiplications. Because think, heaven represents the best, earth represents the worst. You come into this life as a piece of meat and you grow all kinds of pains. First of all, you come to this world and the receptionist over there is spanking you in the back. What kind of welcome is that? And then we go growing, the teeth hurt, other pains, depending on the country you go to, where you have all-time missiles, rockets, butchering, raping. How can this life be good? Heaven has no violence. Heaven is the best. Earth is the worst. That the kingdom of Adonai should be filled even as the waters fill the oceans. And the word amim shows us, amim, this right here represents 70. That's 7 times 10. What comes after that, for those of you who know a little Hebrew, is about maim. That's water. And this is the 70 languages that Yeshua has given to humans when they were living in the Pangea, one land mass, and then because of sin, because of Nimrod trying to compete with God for the Tower of Babel, you call it Babel, God split the Pangea into 7 continents with 70 languages into 70 nations. That's how he uses the number 7. So there it is. The very first letter is Ain, which represents the eye, also the water spring from the earth. '70.
that word mean? What is it?
The letter Ein or,
What, no, what's that word?
I mean,
yeah,
nation.
nations. Amim. Yeah. So the beginning of our prayer that we started with is God bless you. The next one is God to guard you. To rachem, to be merciful, to be pitiful. All these come from the Hebrew word of rechem, lerachem, the womb, the place where all begins. And I often use the earth as the womb of civilization. This is the place where Adam was born. He was conceived in the womb of the earth. Rachamim, lerachem, have pity, handle with special care, just as it was in the womb. The very beginning of the embryo was covered with water, like the fish of the sea. We were conceived in water. And when we ask for God to be merciful to us, think about that. All we're telling to God is, God, if you hear my prayer, accept my prayer, and put me in a position and in a condition where I was in the beginning, in the womb. It is the safest place. Think about it. The closest thing for humans to experience the Garden of Eden is in the womb. They have all the food they need. Like the tree who disposes itself in invisible way, that embryo has to go to the bathroom. But yet, there's no residue of that. Because like the tree, it's gone. That embryo is so safe. It's so safe. It gets everything it needs for life. Oxygen, food. The mother at all times knows exactly where the baby is. He never has to call the police and say, hey, 911, I'm calling for my baby. Can you find my baby? Never. The mother knows at all times, day and night, where the baby is. It nurtures your child. It has shelter. It finds its education in the womb. The only place a child gets both safeguard and nurture for a few months of its life is in the womb. Once out of the womb, safeguard becomes a different form. You have to find nurturing outside of the body. You have to start changing many diapers. Whereas before, didn't have to. Always looking for the baby, like Valerie came to her house yesterday, and she couldn't find 2 minutes, not even a minute of rest. She had to chase her son, sorry, your son, chase him all over the house because he gets in trouble. And the parents cannot be everywhere at all times to safeguard the child, not all through the day and not through all the hours. There's always a chance the child can be hurt. As for nurturing, the provision becomes just as complex. Stable job. You got to have a job to provide. Can you afford to own a house? Or do you have to rent? Can you afford the good schools all the way to academia? What are you going to buy your child? Are you going to cook? Can you buy the best ingredients? Or in this case, you may have to find fast food where it's garbage. There's many things to take into account. You think, well, once the baby is out, things will get better. Really? Well, if you have one, then you know what I'm talking about. Since the parents cannot be everywhere at all times, you have to be vigilant. And this is what Yeshua is telling me. He's telling us, he does not slumber, nor sleeps. He is the watchman on the tower to us at all times, days and nights. So the blessing is to be able to nurture and safeguard the child, just as it was in the womb. That is understood from the Hebrew word lerachem, to have mercy. Every time you tell God in a prayer to have mercy, you're asking God to put you right back in the position, in the condition of the womb where you're safeguarded by the parents. Well, we cannot be back in the womb, but what we do have is we have Yeshua to safeguard us, to protect us, to provide for us. The womb speaks of beginning. It speaks of Genesis, Bereshit. Another reason why I always like to go back to the beginning, in Bereshit. That's where it all began. That was the cradle of humanity, in the womb of the earth. I like to visualize as I read the Torah, and I can see Yeshua reaching out to the four ends of the earth and takes soil from the east and the west and the north and the south and puts it together, and then he forms a form that looks so much like himself, so much like his father. It is almost as we were, what did I always tell you to make you double yourself? Clone yourself. It's almost like he took a Kodak picture of himself, puts it right there on the side, and he's trying to clone where human beings looks just like the Father, just like himself. No difference. Now, obviously, you don't see yourself as being like God. We change so much. Our hair may be green or blue or purple. And we have some shaved this side and some is grown all the way down to here. We don't look like the original image of God. We made our own forms. We're like the Nimrod of the 20th century. We have piercings everywhere. We have metal everywhere. We have holes where they don't belong. I saw a guy who went surgically and he has porcupine. He actually, into the skull, he put all these metal things, spikes. Another guy had horns, literally goat horns, that implant into the skull. I thought we're supposed to be the keepers and the guardians of the animal kingdom. I didn't think God wanted us to become one. But if you notice, humanity just tries to degrade themselves down to the animal, maybe even lower that. I'm just happy to be what I am. I'm not going to put no implants. Well, we're down to number 2. Hope I have enough time. It starts with, may God shine his face upon you and teach you or instruct you. shine your face. Teach. How do you shine one's face? Well, the Torah will make it clear to you. It gives you clarity. It's like it's shining its face on you. It speaks of being pleasant. In the beginning, we were clothed with aura. Aura is not English. Aura is a Hebrew word, means light. When you look at the sun or you look at the stars, that's what the Bible talks about, the aura of the sun. Or the aura. Now, don't think for a second that the moon can generate light. No. Neither the moon nor the earth can do that. All we can do is just reflect the light. And that's what happened to Moshe when he came down from the mountain. The nation was going blind, but it wasn't like he was the one generating the light. He was just transferring the light from Yeshua upon him, and then he was transferring over to the nation. He had to cover his face from the light. No human being has ever duplicated that. Another word for aura is enlightenment or understanding and instructing. It is the vital for a parent to teach their children not only for the here and now, but also for that which awaits us in the future. I know that today, around the developed countries, the last thing a parent wants to do is teach their children Torah or teach them honor or teach them to study the Torah. But they want to be famous and to get into sports, which is all physical. All physical. Whether it's a marathon, whether it's a wrestling or football, baseball, it's all about physical. Many of those kids, they cannot read and write. They cannot. Because from the very early age, the parents are pushing them. Going to this, going to that. It takes patience. It takes a lot of patience. But today, in this lifestyle, it's almost impossible for a woman to be a mother. She has to go to work to make ends meet. And then she has to hurry up to the grocery store to see what she can get that's already cooked and prepared to bring it to their children. Or we have babysitters who raise our children. And now all of a sudden the babysitter becomes the mother. How sad. One thing I promised my wife, as long as I'm alive, you will never have to work. All I ask of you is to raise our children in the ways of the Lord. And she took it upon herself. We had fresh food. We had always cooked food. Oh yeah, every now and then we splurged and we bought hamburger with 50 grams of fat. But we didn't know that then. It sure tasted good. Obviously, we had to stop that because I ballooned. The point is, today's kids don't really have a value for parents. The father is either traveling all the time or working 20 hours a day. The mother has to work over there. They don't have the value of parents. And for this reason, they cannot respect them the same way as the Torah teaches us. So you see what we do, we're losing. May God shine his face upon you. We lose that because we have no clarity. But we have to have enlightenment. We have to learn compassion, not with anger or raise our voice. I would say that as a good parent, if you want to be heard, what do? Whisper. Whisper. Because a child should not fear to be afraid. Sometimes you have to pedal them. But the point of a father is to demand respect. I pedaled Nathan and Daniela. Hope she cannot hear me. But most of the pedaling he got was because of her. Sisters, they're so good in getting you in trouble. This is why you want to have a son older, because then he doesn't have to be influenced by the sister. Because sisters like to do that. They get you in trouble, they run. Lost my train of thought, so continue. But wouldn't it be nice when I raised my kids to the point where they were able to understand? I didn't have to pedal them anymore. If they were in trouble way out there among thousands of people in a church or place we've been there, I just look up and they immediately. It's even better than whisper. They saw my eyes, boom. Because daddy takes account. He keeps a black book with red ink. Not really. God shine his face upon you and grant you chen. Chen is grace or charm. During his teaching, lechanech or yechunecha. The very first person appears in the Bible was the educator, the first teacher that we find in Bereshit. You remember his name? It's hard for you to remember this because the English has changed his name. But who am I talking about? Hanoch. Hanoch. You call him Enoch. What do you learn from Enoch? Tell me, what does Enoch mean to you? It means nothing. Why would you even want to study Enoch? But Hanoch means the teacher, the educator. And not only did he teach right, but even his life was one of a model, to the point where God even took him out of this planet Earth into a store place, waiting for the day of redemption. Hanoch, the teacher. What is the job of a teacher? To make him prosper, to teach him increase and good behavior. Now, you may not agree with me, but I speak for myself. We have been in many, many places, churches, synagogues. We've been to rich people's homes, to poor people's homes. And at every given time, we always got compliments on our children. Any place we would go, I just tell my children, sit. That's it. They never, unless they had to go to the restroom, they were just sitting there behaving. And the people say, what have you done? How did you do that? Well, it takes a little patience. A little patience, a little Torah, a little the use of the belt. But all together, that's what you have. They're the fruit of the tree. You don't want to get them to fear you or to be scared. But I'd rather have their respect even more than their love. They're supposed to love mother. I don't want them to fear mother. I want them to respect and love mother. I could do away with the love. Because I learned this from God. You think God would be merciful to you when you sin? No. When you sin, God will zap you. The reason we are alive is because of Yeshua. Because he stood between us and God, and he always tried to soothe God's anger from us. No, God is not merciful. The Father he will consume you. He will not tolerate sin in his domain. But the Son does. And through our cruelty and punishing him and pulling his hair and his beard, and then we crucify him, through all that, he absorbed it. And then what does he say? Abba, forgive their sins. Wow. To me, this means more than even the life he gave. Those words, me? If you hurt me, I'm going to hurt you back. I'm not going to say forgive them. Well, maybe now I do. But when I was younger, no. An eye for an eye. You hurt me, I'll hurt you. But if you can get to the point where you just look at your children out there and they know, Abba's watching, and he doesn't forget, because when we end up going home, something bad is going to happen to us. Now, I know many parents will frown on you. What a mean, what a bad parent you are. You peddled your son or daughter. Yeah, you're cruel. They should take your kids away. Well, and you still call yourself a Christian or a Messianic or a Catholic? What does the Bible say? Spare not the rod. Spare not. It doesn't say spare the rod. It says spare not. It's better for the child to have 3 licks on his behind to make him go straight than to let him go and end up in prison for crimes that he did. Any day, anytime. My kids knew, even in a later age of their life. I said, you're not old enough for me to spare the rod on you. You live in my house, you will obey the rules in this house. When you go on your own, do whatever you want. I don't even want to know. Ezekiel, could you take the battery out of that clock? The very word lechanech is the word that I showed you of the multiplication. The very words of Chanoch, the teacher. What does a teacher do? He teaches multiplications. If you do this, you do that. If you do that, you'll get this. Yeah. If you plant the seed, right? You're not going to harvest seed. You're not going to harvest leaves. You're going to harvest fruit, whether it's the tree or the tomatoes or whatever it is. At this stage, everything is provided to the baby by both parents. At this point, the baby is helpless. Everything has to be done for it. You have to carry the baby from here to there. You have to make them to open their mouth so they can drink their milk or their potion. The baby does nothing. This is why I often say it laughingly, because people get mad at me. But I would never call my wife baby. I would never. To me, this is degrading. My wife is not helpless. My wife does a lot more than I do. She can never be a baby. You can call her other endearing words, but baby, that's me. I'm not telling you. You can call your wife or husband baby all day long. But to me, I will never degrade my wife to that place where she has to be helpless. That's what they do with Yeshua, those Catholics. Yeshua is always in the arms of the mother. He can never get out of his mother's hands. How can he help me? But yet, through all of this, what does the mother do when the baby smells bad? She looks down and says, I hate you. I'd throw you in the trash. Maybe somebody will adopt you because you stink. No. You clean them up and they shine again. And what do? You kiss them all over. And you always look down with those, as Yeshua looks down upon us, we look upon the baby. That baby never smells bad, no matter how bad it is. That is the joy that you bring to this life. You brought life. And the third, and I'm way off time, but the last one I want to cover for you, because what I'm trying to teach you all is how to be a good parent. A biblical parent, not a rabbi parent. Don't learn from me what I did for my children. I'm teaching you Bible parenting. Number 3, may God lift up his face towards you and place shalom, peace, upon you. Imagine that. If the parents in Israel were to raise their children in the ways of Torah, maybe they would not be sacrificing their sons in war. Because, I've done this many times, and I never learned this from anybody, and maybe there's somebody else using the same thing. But to me, this is what it looks like. It's coming. Don't go yet. It's coming. Yeah. So this is the king right here. And this here is the nation. And their job is to protect the king. They have soldiers inside, outside, in the country. All they have to do is protect the king. The only place that I found, the only palace, the only kingdom that I found is where the people are inside and Yeshua is guarding us. It's the only king of all kings that protects us compared to other kings that we have to protect the king. The king is helpless without us. But in this case, Yeshua, the king of all kings, he protects us. And this is the only time you can have shalom in your nation. It's when Yeshua, the king, brings shalom, because one of his titles, one of his attributes, he is the Prince of Shalom. Actually, Yeshua blessed his disciples in this manner right before he took off, from the book of Luke 24, verse 50 to 51. And he led them out as far as Beit Oni. Now, I know in English it's Bethany. Somebody tell me, what does Bethany mean? I have no clue. Does anybody know Bethany? But Beit Oni is the house of, no, Oni is poverty. It's like the house of where you help people. Charity, thank you. The house of charity. He took them, his disciples, to the house of charity. And that's what in Hebrew we know mitzvot. That's what the Hebrew word is, mitzvot. And he held them out as far as Beit Oni, and he lifted up his hands and he blessed them. What do you think he did? He did the high priestly of the Shin. This is the gesture. I cannot do it very good because of my surgery, but this is the gesture of every mezuzah you see, you will find the Shin. Sometimes it looks, well, maybe like this. The rabbis have changed to give it, but what you have here is Abraham, Itzhak, Yaakov, and Yeshua. They are part of the covenant. What is the covenant? It is the grafting. Yeshua grafted Abraham, Itzhak, and Yaakov into himself. And that's why every mezuzah has Shaddai. The only the only name, it's not a name, what is it? The only attribute of Yeshua's many different attributes is the woman, the feminine side, the breasted one. Yeshua is the female God. Hope I don't confuse you. But this is what a mother does. She nurtures. Who said that? Boy, I need some help around here today. That is, when a child is hungry, that's that age, he doesn't run to daddy, he runs to mama. Their mama is dependent. Mama is dependable. Mama always provides what the child needs. So that is what the mezuzah does. It gives you the inside content of Shema Israel, Hear, O Israel. The Lord God is the only provider. He is the only God, the only invisible God. This type of blessing is the high priest posture. In fact, what is Yeshua doing at this time, and what has he done for us for nearly 2,000 years? He has been our mediator, and that is what the high priest does for his nation. A king cannot bring the nation to God. He can take him to war, but he can never take the nation to God. Only the high priest. Only the high priest. He mediates for his people. While he was blessing them, he departed from them and was carried up into heaven. I can just see this, and I hope that you can see what I see. Yeshua is waiting for his vehicle. That vehicle does not use gas or diesel, and it's not operated on batteries. It operates on claiming, I always do the will of my Father. That's all. His obedience took him. And the very last thing that his disciples saw was the high priest, symbol of the Shin. I am your provider. I'm too slow today. I have so much to share with you. The last thing I will say to you, Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.